Alpha Zyke. My mate's wolf was the first thing I saw when I entered into the leech's realm. Her grief-stricken growl, the first sound I heard. I almost passed out from relief when I saw that she was unhurt and safe, but was still in pain because her father was hurt and dying beside her. I mind-linked Mint immediately to go cover Emma and her father. As soon as I heard the leech telling my mate to choose between her father's lives and being his queen, I wanted to punch his pretty face into a pulp. However, I tried holding back because one wrong move could cost me the lives of my mate or my fellow wolves, and I didn't come here to bargain with an asshole like Vladimir. The blood-sucking crybaby king tripled his men, but it wouldn't change the fact that I would be kicking his arse today. And to my shock, Ashley came and stood in front of me, her golden furs glowing like the sun in the dark. I came here to rescue her. I couldn't let her get hurt, but I couldn't believe she was courageous enough to stand before over 100 men. It was easier and understandable for her to cower and stay behind the strongest werewolves in the realm, who were ready to give their lives for her. But she chose to stand up and fight. I didn't want to risk it, but before I or anyone could make any move, Ashley dived into the air with a speed that made my jaw drop and pounced on Vladimir's face, knocking him to the ground. I took that as a cue and yelled at my hunter and warrior wolves to go. I shapeshifted and pranced into the dispersing crowd of vampires. Although I was the fastest in my realm, my speed still couldn't measure up to the vampire's natural superspeed or that of my mate, so I did what I could do best. My heightened senses. I used that to catch them before they zapped past me, digging my claws into their fleshes, so they became weaker and slower, making it easier to finish them off faster. My men imitated the system, and soon more than half of the vamps were down. Their speed was the only advantage they had over us, and as soon as we made them slower, killing them became much easier. I turned to see how my mate was doing, and I saw that she was strangling Vladimir. I could see the bitterness in her dark blue eyes. I went to her side, because at this point I was sure she wasn't thinking straight anymore. I knew she wouldn't want his infested blood in her hands, and I wanted us to leave right now. I nudged her with Nuzzle until she stopped and got off him, and then ran to where her father was lying. Mint was still with him. I mind-linked my men to stop fighting and start retreating. The Vampire King was half dead all thanks to Emma, and his men might bring more and more reinforcement. We couldn't afford to lose any wolf, and had to get Emma's father treated as soon as possible. Their boundary had just turned into a bloodbath. Blood that reeked in the most disgusting way ever. Mint and I shapeshifted back to our human form and hurled Emma's father up carefully as we all came out of the realm's protective dome, with Emma following us closely behind. Neil, the old sorcerer who was waiting for us outside the boundary, opened a red glowing portal that took us straight to our realm. Emma. I felt as though my father was dying, but Mint was refusing to tell me the truth. We were in one of the rooms in Mint's hospital. It was the first place we came to. Immediately, we got to the realm. I didn't know they would be this thoughtful to bring my father here straight. They have tried to get me to leave his side, but I only did when they were stitching his wounds. I had to come in and check on him after that. I just couldn't stand staying away from my dad. Trepidation and fear that he could die made my throat dry from crying too much. I was currently putting on a hospital gown Zyke gave me when I shapeshifted. He sent everyone away while I put on the oversized patient uniform, guarding me so possessively so they wouldn't see my clothless body. Although we haven't really spoken, as I wasn't in the mood to say anything to anyone. Kurt had managed to drag him away from my side to go put on some clothes while I came to sit close to my father. I held my father's hand and raised my head to stare it out the window, only to see a startling reflection of myself. My hair was in disarray, and my face was wet from too much crying, with my eyes sunken deep like the eyes of creatures from Angelina Jolie's zombie movies. My dad mumbled some incoherent words, bringing my attention to his face. His eyes were open but not focused on anything, just staring blankly into space. I tightened my grasp on his hand, which caused him to turn his head to my direction. "I can see your mother, Em," my father said drowsily, a strand of tears sliding down his face. I was so scared I wanted to dash out and go get Mint to come check him. How can he be seeing my dead mother? Doesn't that mean he is dying? Oh God, no. I started to sob all over again, but Mint walked into the room to my relief. I can see Eileen, my dad spoke up again, and this time with a smile that looked like he was intoxicated. And I'm going to tell her you grew up to be an exceptional and selfless person like her. I'll tell her you can speak now, too. Not that I cared so much, but I was too worried about how others would perceive you, child. I shouldn't have locked you up that way. I'm so sorry. He burst into silent sobs, turning his head to face the window. I raised a worried eyebrow at Mint, and he explained to me quietly that my dad wasn't dying but was reacting to the pain relief drugs he was given. He'll be fine when he wakes up, Emma. Don't worry, Mint reassured gently. You need to rest as well for yourself and the baby. Oh, I replied, speechless. I didn't know Mint knew about the baby, I thought, caressing my flat stomach absent-mindedly. I had strained myself for the past few days, not even realizing it could take a toll on the budding soul inside of me. Yes, the nurses have prepared a room for you to get absolute bed rest, he added. I got up, thanked him, and pleaded for the umpteenth time that he looks after my dad before heading to the room next to my dad's. I would leave this realm as soon as my dad gets better, I resolved as I came into the hallway, only to see my mate few meters away from me, gazing deeply at me with a soft look in his misty violet eyes. I wanted to turn away from him and run away to a place where his presence and the look in his eyes wouldn't affect me so much, a place where I could hate him successfully, where the pace of my heart's rhythm wouldn't beat faster just because of his delicious smell in my nostrils. But my legs wouldn't budge, and before I knew it, he was upon me, folding me in the warmest embrace ever. Alpha Zyke. I stood in the hospital's hallway, waiting for Emma to come out from her dad's room, after going to get some clothes on due to Kurt's incessant nagging. She came out after a long wait, looking frailer and skinnier than normal. Her ebony black hair was everywhere, with the single beaded strand dangling close to her ear, giving her a bedraggled look, and the blue-colored hospital oversized gown I gave her after she shifted made her look smaller than she actually was, coupled the male-ish open-toe slippers that seemed funny in her feet. I pondered on a whole lot of things while I was away from her, like what if I did everything right from the start? What if I didn't treat her like she was some sort of disease worth getting rid of? And after she had left, what if I lost her completely? What if I didn't get there on time and she got hurt? I would never forgive myself, I thought as my gaze bore into hers. She thinned her lips, stared back at me, her shoulders slumped from fatigue. The thought of what she went through made me crave to go kill that leech for good. I couldn't hold back anymore. With 3 long strides, I held Emma in my embrace. She struggled at first, but soon began to melt into me and let go of herself. I buried my nose in her hair, wanting to stay this way for as long as possible. But it seemed as if she regained her composure as she gently nudged me away from her and dashed into the room next to her dad's. Before I got to the door, she had been quick enough to lock it from inside. She locked me out. It hurt so much, but that was what I did to her during the times she wanted me the most. I wanted to hit the door and beg her to let me in so we could talk, but there were patients around, and some of them were beginning to get curious of my presence here. You don't get to see the alpha every day, lurking around the PAC's hospital. Also, I wouldn't want to disturb the peace of other patients who needed rest, especially Emma's father. But I needed to speak to her. I had to tell her to be my Luna. I felt dejected, standing in front of a closed door. So this was how it feels, right? Mint came out from Elgin's room and saw me standing in front of Emma's door like a drenched puppy. She need to rest, Zyke, and also some time to get herself together, you know? Mint whispered, giving me a gentle shove. I straightened up and nodded, forcing a smile that came out weakly. Mint seemed more matured these days, maybe because he was experiencing a kind of rejection himself. We both started walking towards the elevator, as Mint was probably on his way home. He was putting on his white doctor's coat, which he had on since we came back from the vampire's realm. He had to treat some of our injured men, especially Emma's father, whose condition was most critical. I was really grateful Elgin survived. If not, Emma would never have forgave me. Like never, ever. Thank you for treating Elgin mint, I said, but didn't get a reply from him, so I turned to my side only to see that I have been talking to myself. I looked back and saw Mint standing as though he had somehow been glued to that spot. I walked back to where he stood and waved at his face because he seemed lost all of a sudden. "Hey man, what's wrong?" I asked as quietly as possible because we were attracting more attention than necessary. "I can smell her." He grabbed my arms and impulsively inhaled a lung full of air, all the while staring blankly into space. I was lost as well, totally not getting what he was saying. "Smell who?" "My mate, Isabel." He sounded whipped, and then turned to stare at me with a look of triumph in his gray eyes. "She's here, like really close, I can tell," he said, and started sniffing the air in earnest. "Mint, calm down, your patients are watching you right now." I probed with hushed tone, but my gamma simply ignored me and started working forward with determined, turning his head around like he just came to his own hospital for the first time. He seemed so hyped. I could sense how much he needed his mate right now. I couldn't imagine the toll the haze had on him. I followed him, walking as fast as I could, but before I knew it, my best friend broke into a run, entering one corridors to the other, and then one patient's room to another like he had totally lost his damn mind. People were looking now at the way he was running about, but he didn't even seem to notice their stares and side talks or care about them. I managed to keep up with him as I was feeling both emotionally and physically tired myself. I wondered if he remembered that she was the one avoiding him, and if she really was looking for her, this way was totally useless. Mint finally stopped in front of the hospital's female restroom. "She must be in here, I swear," he said between panting and breathlessness. "Hades can feel her as well, in there." "Oh, no, no," I thought, holding him back. "You aren't thinking of going in there, right?" I asked the Earless statue standing beside me. "Why can't I?" he asked with pure oblivion, and for a moment I feared he had finally lost it. "Why don't we just wait for her to come out, Mint?" "What if she never comes out?" People actually come out of their homes. Even animals that hibernate comes out of their holes at some point. It's a restroom, not a grave. I slapped my hands on my forehead, feeling frustrated. Where the hell was Curtis at this time anyway? Females went in and came out of the restroom staring at us like psychos at first, and when they realized who we were, they bow with shocked expressions plastered on their faces. It was embarrassing as hell. We stood there for what seemed like eternity, but Mint's supposed mate never came out till he gave up with a crushed look on his face and turned towards the corridor leading to the elevator. Mint's shoulders slumped. I felt his pain and still couldn't understand why anyone would be avoiding a wolf like Mint. He had it all. Great personality, enviable background and circle, really cool career, a high ranking, and one of the most respected werewolf in the whole realm, looks to die for, and so much more. So what exactly would make anyone not want him? I couldn't answer that, but I knew one thing for sure. The problem wasn't with him, but with that so-called mate toying with his heart. We both headed to the beach house to drown our sorrows with wine, but changed our route to my office when Curtis informed us that some elders from the Green Forest Pack were here to see me. A new solution for the Green Forest Pack issue suddenly occurred to me as we walked into the pack house. "Carla," I had resumed the duty of cleaning toilets and sleeping in the ground floor when I heard the news about Emma coming back. I couldn't believe it at first until I overheard Curtis telling the Alpha's sister when I was looking for information in the guise of cleaning the library. According to the first-hand information from Beta Curtis, she was in Mint's hospital with her dad taking treatment. I was almost caught sighing aloud in relief. I couldn't hold in my happiness when I heard that she was back. Although I supported her decision of leaving, it seemed as though she fell into trouble when she left, which almost cost her her life. I had to see her first to know how she was faring. Poor Emma, she must have gone through so much. It was important for me to go now because Curtis said she was alone and Tricia said she would go see her later, so now was the only opportunity I had to see my friend. I rushed to the bathroom to change into the only good clothes I had, as some envious stewards connived with the guards not to allow me stay at the 6th floor since they heard that Emma left. I had to start sharing a room with 12 other stewardess at the ground floor, a life I thought I was over already. To make matters worse, all the people I once laughed and ate with became so nasty to me, saying I was friends with a half-blood and that we were both an evil contamination to the realm. I held it in, as I was planning to leave anyways. I would leave the Red Forest pack so I could properly stay away from Mint till I can stand on my own 2 feet, till I become my own person. I let them starve me as they liked, did the extra chores thrown at me. I had no one to complain to, as my best friend wasn't here, but not anymore. Emma was back. I really hoped the Alpha would be smart and quick enough to make her his Luna this time around. There was no hairbrush here, so I simply packed my hair in a manageable ponytail, brushed the dust off my worn-out jean, and hurriedly put on the only sandals I had. Rankless stewardess can only wear sandals and not Converse like anyone else. I sneaked out through the labyrinth leading to the outside of the castle I showed Emma. And then the thought that I couldn't actually run into Mint in the hospital dawned on me like an iced water in a hot summer. I'll be as careful as possible, I told myself before taking the bush part shortcut leading to the biggest hospital in the realm. I remembered how I went there with so much confidence the last time, but it wasn't the same now. I had to sneak into the hospital like a fugitive with a clear, utmost goal. I must not run into Mint. I felt really guilty and bad for him, but was well aware that he would never accept me when he finally realizes who I am. Growing up without parents from infanthood had taught me to face reality at all times. It was just totally impossible for him to accept me. Like, where do I even start from? How can I ever fit in? I got to the hospital in the nick of time. It was nearing noon. Those heartless stewardess would soon start searching for me. And instead of taking the elevator like everyone else, I took the stairs, heading to the 4th floor according to Curtis's description. There was a greater chance of running into Mint if I used the elevator, so I started repeating the ward letter and room number as I ascended the stairs. Ward B, room 38. Silently till I got to the door, indicating that I was in the 4th floor. Lucky me, I thought, panting, it would have been the 30th floor, and I would have no choice but to climb all the way. I entered into the large, light-filled hallway, and the first smell that hit my nostrils was my mate's smell. Grape, strong masculine cologne. I froze, panicked, and started turning my head around to see if he had already spotted me. He might not recognize my face, but my smell would be a dead giveaway. In a frenzy, I ran into the female restroom I spotted at the next corridor, and as soon as I got in, I heard my mate and the Alpha's voices from outside. I literally held my breath, hoping and praying they wouldn't be reckless enough to come in. It was a female's restroom after all. Shouldn't it be like against moral code of conduct to barge in like that? Of course it was. I don't have a degree yet, but that is a general, common-sense smart people like the Alpha and his Gamma must have. I didn't get much of what they said, but after about an hour later of me persevering consistently in the toilet, Mint and the Alpha both left the restroom's entrance. And then I felt his disappointment. It was so strong it drew a tear from my eyes. Emma. I sat on the hospital's single bed, folding my legs, resting my chin on my knees, staring out the window as the sun set beautifully in the werewolf realm. I had been in the room for 3 days, weeping my eyes out, asking myself if I would ever be all right, if I could trust anyone anymore. Will we both finally find peace if I leave? Was staying back here and being treated like a nameless pushover what I wanted? I didn't allow anyone come in for these 3 days, except the nurses who came to check my pulse, temperature, and some other things. Not that werewolves really need all that, though. Cleaners who came to change the sheets and clean the room. I told them not to allow anyone else come in, not even when Zyke came to the door more than 3 times each day, knocking and begging me to allow us talk. I refused to see anyone I knew personally. I even had to mind-link my father occasionally to know if he was feeling better, all because I didn't want to come out of the room. I did everything here: sleep, eat, and read. Zyke sent clothes and food through the nurses. He also sent the unfinished book I was reading before I left. It melted my heart, I must confess. but I don't want to be in a place where I wasn't accepted or my dad is seen as an outcast for no just cause. We would both go back home to the human realm, and I would get a job and start taking care of my father and my child. We all been through enough. We deserve some peace, and we would be leaving today. I dropped the book I was reading on the bed and started getting ready. A stormy cloud was gathering in the distant sky, indicating that it would start raining soon. But who cares? Once we get out of the werewolf realm, home isn't that far. I gathered my hair to the back and braided the whole bunch, quieting its unruliness. I already had a white turtleneck wool sweater on and a black baggy joggers, so I simply added the white Converse that came with the other clothes. I would be taking the rest of the clothes to Carla. I already told a nurse to help me deliver it to her. I was sure she must be doing well by herself. I'm just really curious about what happened with her and Mint. If she had revealed herself to him yet, or she had decided to keep him in the dark forever. I would have loved to see her before I go, but I don't want to stop at the pack house to avoid running into my mate. I finished tying my shoelace and I was ready. A knock was heard on the door, and before I could ask who it was, I heard my father's voice. Right on time, I thought, as I opened the door for him. He looked completely well rested, the light back in his eyes and his collarbones covered with more flesh. Mint made sure he got complete rest for these 3 days, and they regulated his diet to help him get more out of eating. I was beyond grateful. My father looked healthier, almost like the man he was when I was young, and his ebony black hair that I took after had just few traces of age. He was putting on a round-neck cardigan with black pant trousers. That will surely do, I thought. "Hey, child." He paused and stared at me thoughtfully. "You're finally coming out of your shell today. That is a good thing." "Yes, father, we have to leave now. It would start raining soon," I said indifferently, trying to avoid his eyes. My heart keeps breaking at the thought of leaving, and I was afraid he might see it. "You're leaving?" he asked without a single trace of surprise or confusion in his voice. "To where, child?" "Yes, home." "Home?" "Yes, Dad, home," I replied patiently. "The home we can both live in together." "Are you sure about that, Emma?" My dad asked me as he sat down comfortably on the bed, then pat the empty side of the bed for me to sit on. "Yes, I am. I won't live apart from you anymore. I can protect you, myself, and my child without the help of anyone." I stopped and tears welled from my insides, threatening to force itself out. "You are carrying a child?" My father sounded thrown off guard, and I remembered we both haven't had the time to talk about it or all of what had happened in the past days. "Yes, father. Sorry you had to know this way." I gazed into his eyes with an assuring one. "And that makes me have more to protect now. My so-called powers are useless if I can't protect the ones I love, so we have to go back home." My dad fell silent for some minute and then dipped his hand into his pocket and brought out a folded piece of paper. "You can decide after reading this, Emma," my father said solemnly, handing me the piece of paper. I took it from him but hesitated before opening it. It was a later, carefully written, tiny penmanship with my name at the first sentence. It was obviously from my mate. I swallowed an invisible lump in my throat and started reading each word as carefully as they were written. "Emma, I'm writing you this letter as my last resort on how to reach you since you wouldn't let us talk. There was just no other way to reach you anymore. I know I don't deserve you, Emma, but I honestly wish I knew better. I wish I wasn't so blinded and short-sighted by what I thought was the right thing, which really wasn't. I can't take back the hands of time, but I want to right all of my wrongs as much as possible, and it might not happen in a day, but I'll do my best to do better, mate. Another chance, Emma. That is all I ask. Please be my Luna. Be my queen. Stay with me and make my inadequate existence a complete one. Because without you, I realized I'm really nothing." I clutched my chest as I let the paper drop languidly to the floor. My heart rolled into my stomach and started to sink and break. The tear I had been holding back released itself and streamed down my cheek. More tears followed after that, and soon I was crying like a child in front of my father. He held me to his chest, resting my head on his strong, reliable chest, and patted my back gently without saying a word. I was grateful. It was the kind of consolation I needed. But we still had to go. I would never leave my dad by himself again. not after all we went through. The sky began to shed its own tears alongside me as my father and I made for the realm's boundary together. ZYK. The rain poured down from the sky, matching the mood I've been in for days. Emma wouldn't talk to me or agree to see me. It broke my heart so much and made me lose interest in literally everything. I handed the pack affairs to Curtis temporarily after making Mint a provisional leader of the Green Forest pack. A way to help him get away from his torturous mate and get better, or maybe find a chosen mate, as he was even more lovesick than I was. The Green Forest pack gets a young, kind, and incredible leader, Mint exercise his great leadership potentials, and take time to heal. It was a win-win situation for all of us. All the elders of the pack agreed, and even the other alphas thought it was a great idea, not that I needed their opinion. They said they might make Mint their permanent alpha if they love how he carries the pack. We had only one problem, though. Mint wasn't even considering the offer. He said leaving here might make him lose his chance of ever seeing his mate again. He still had faith, but I don't know if I do. I wonder if Emma had read the letter I sent to her through her dad. I wonder if that would be enough to change her mind and make her stay. The rain poured down more heavily and angrily, like something was making it pissed. Little wonders anyway, it was the first rain of the year. Legends had it that we werewolves usually end up with the person we found ourselves in the rain together. I always laughed at such superstitious and outdated legends and would rather call it myths. A loud knock on my door dragged me out of my reverie. As I opened the door, I saw Mendez, head of the Royal Guards, panting heavily like he had been running for a really long distance. He was soaked to the bone from the rain, which obviously showed on how water was dripping down his hair and clothes. "Mendez, what is so urgent that you—" "Your mate is at the border, Alpha," he wheezed, trying to catch his breath. "She is leaving with her father, and—" I didn't wait for him to finish his sentence before dashing out like there was fire under my heels into the rain. I ran on bare foot because getting shoes on was going to waste precious time. I ran like my life depended on it because it really did. "Emma! Emma!" I heard Zeke call my name from about 20 miles away, but I kept on walking towards the boundary that demarcated werewolves from humans. It was raining so heavily now, even the border guards had umbrellas, although theirs were made of irons. The rain's torrent thumped loudly on the single umbrella covering my dad and me. I got it from one of the nurses who said she'd rather die than see us walk into the rain without it. Still, though, my shoes were wet and my feet soaked. "Don't do anything you're going to regret, child," my father said for the umpteenth time. "I'll be fine, Dad." I replied him simply and continued the slow pace, but my father stopped, so I had to, as I was the one holding the umbrella. "I know you're doing this for my sake, but you really don't have to. Listen to him at the very least, please, daughter." My dad probed, increasing my urge to cry. I didn't want him to know I was doing this for him, and now that he does, he'll do anything to stop it. Would I regret leaving? Yes. I would definitely regret leaving the person who holds a part of my soul. I regret depriving him of being with his own child. I would feel guilty for the rest of my life. But what does it matter as long as we are all safe? I would have died because his realm were against him, and I being together because he didn't stand up for me when he was supposed to. My father would have died because of his selfishness and indifference. My mother died because of his father's disloyalty. I clutched my chest as crushing tears rushed out of my eyes. The weather was cold, but my tears were hot because they were coming from a burning heart. My throat went dry, my eyes hurt, my legs suddenly felt too weak to carry my legs. I wasn't meant to be crying all the time in the manner. I had to consider my child. They say unborn children have ears and their mother's emotions affect how they are formed in the long run. I felt my father's hands on my shoulders as he collected the umbrella from me and covered me properly. "He's sorry, Emma, really." "How would you know, Dad?" I asked between sniffs. "If there was anyone to hate him, it should be my dad. I have no idea why he is so forgiving." He told me himself. "Emma, please wait." So the voice was closer than before. I twirled to see my mate running so fast, he suddenly tripped on something and fell on his face. My heart cracked open at that point as I impulsively dashed to where he was, without thinking twice about getting beaten by the rain. I helped him up and saw that he had a little scratch on his jaw that was beginning to heal on its own. His eyes were bloodshot, which meant he had been crying and he had no shoes on. He was completely barefooted. The rain fell on the both of us as we stood facing each other, and at this very moment it was just the both of us in the world. "Are you crazy?" I yelled at him, feeling unexplainably furious. I didn't know exactly why I was angry. I was just simply angry. "How could you run under the rain without shoes? What if you got hurt?" "I'm sorry, Emma," my mate uttered, his voice husky but calm. Raindrops streamed down his eyes like tears. They made him look so vulnerable, like every other person. Like he had flaws too, like he wasn't the all-powerful, invincible, and perfect being his subjects saw him as. "Sorry for what?" I tried to sound angry, but he simply pushed a strand of wet hair from my face, his fingers sending unbelievable tingles, starting from my nip. "Pless. For running barefoot all the way from the castle, or for forgetting to take an umbrella with you?" Some of his hair strands were resting on his forehead, his violet eyes cloudier than the sky above us right now. The loose-fitting t-shirt his was wearing hugged every part of his firm abs, giving him a sexier look. I could keep staring at him like this all day long. "I'm sorry for everything, from the very beginning, even before you were born. I'm sorry on my father's behalf, on my realm's behalf, and on my own behalf, Emma." He sounded grave and dead serious. I didn't know what to say. I just stood staring at him like he had suddenly become someone else, and realized that I loved him even before he loved me. He took my palms into his wet ones affectionately and continued speaking. "Be my queen, Emma. Rule beside me and don't ever leave my side." My heartbeat accelerated, thumping loudly against my chest. "What about the child?" I asked, looking down at my stomach and then back to his eyes. "Of course I want my child," he stated, enthused with a new glitter in his eyes. The way I reacted that day was a result of an ignorant fear inculcated in me since I was a child. His words made me realize I didn't really know much about his childhood or what happened then. But first I had to ask an important question. What about my dad? His banishment had been lifted from this very moment, and he will be given back all that was taken from him before he was exiled, including his chambers in the castle. My mate declared, drawing warm tears from my eyes once again. I thought he was going to act like he acted the other time, and I wouldn't be staying back with him like a spineless creature. If he chases my father, I'll be leaving with him. But Zeke didn't. He was putting my happiness first now. "Marry me, Emma Price." He took a step closer. I could feel the heat emanating from him. "Be my wife, my Luna Queen, my everything." I turned to stare at my father, who nodded and smiled encouragingly at me. I looked back at my mate and laughed out loud. "I asked your father, but he said you had the final say," Zyke laughed nervously. "Well, I expected a fancier proposal than this one, though." I rolled my eyes jokingly. "Was that a proposal?" "Didn't see it as one, though," he chuckled. "I'll read up on it and do better next time." As if there would be a next time, I thought with a snigger. My mate jeered and scoped me into his arms. "And the next time you try to run off like that again, you'll be getting a good spanking from me," he whispered down, and I couldn't help but bite my lower lips in anticipation. "You're mine, little mate. Don't ever forget that." I wonder how the both of us held on this long, when we missed and crave each other's body like our favorite food. He started walking, and my dad trailed behind us, probably smiling with satisfaction. He never wanted me to sacrifice my happiness for him, and he achieved that smoother than I expected. A car drove in front of us and stopped. One of the border guards rushed to open the door for us, and my mate placed me in gently, while my dad took the seat beside the driver. We were now going to a place I could finally call home, and that felt too good to be true. ZYK. When we arrived at the castle, I scooped my mate into my arms, despite her trying to argue that she could walk. I asked Kurt to escort Emma's father to his chambers, where clothes, phones, and every other thing he would be needing to live comfortably in the pack house. Some stewardess were assigned to him to attend to all his needs. I also put in my phone number in case he wanted us to meet and talk, and Emma could go and see him anytime she wanted. I realized her happiness was my happiness, so I intend to make her happy for as long as I live. I carried my mate up the 6th floor to our room as our clothes dripped of all the rain that had beaten us. I hope she doesn't catch a cold, though, especially now another life was budding inside of her. I took her straight to the bathroom, where I placed her gently in the bathtub and began to peel off the wet clothes from her body. She giggled and curled her toes as I removed the soaked Converse shoes from her legs. "I could do that myself, you know," she quipped with a twinkle in her eyes, but didn't resist anymore. Emma. I woke up as the sun's ray filtered into the room. I stared at my mate as he slept peacefully with his arms stretched out while I lay on top of it. I didn't even remember when and how I slept off last night. All I know was that we were both completely spent and tired. I wanted to get up, but he held me back, smiling, and then kissed my forehead affectionately with his eyes still closed. "I want to wake up beside you this way every day, Emma," he mused dreamily, wrapping his other arm tightly around me in a possessive manner. "I love you." I felt his body tensed as he said the words. I stiffened as well. It was the first time I was ever hearing those 3 words from him, and I sincerely didn't know how to react to it. Tears formed in my eyes, and I raised my head to look at him properly. "I love you too, Zyke," I uttered and smiled as he peered his eyes open and then let out a long breath as if he had been holding his breath. I forced him to get up so we could wash up before dinner was served. I informed the stewardess that we would all be having a family dinner tonight, so they should help us prepare well for it. Meanwhile, I had to go see Carla. I've missed my best friend so much. I shoved the beacon and bread and coffee served for breakfast into my mouth, hurried into a blue jean short and blue hoodie, pecked my mate on his stubble-filled cheeks before rushing out of the room. I asked the person who served us breakfast about Carla, and was told me that she had resumed her former chores at the ground floor. I couldn't wait to get her the heck out of there at once. Those bullies want to use this opportunity to make her suffer simply because I wasn't around. But as I stepped out of the door, I ran straight into Trisha, Zyke's kid sister. I didn't know much about her, except that she was my mate's sister, a blondie and the head librarian of the Royal Library. In addition, an extremely energetic person. I wonder what she was doing here this early as I smiled and said hi. "Emma," she almost shrieked, looking so enthused and happy to see me. "I've been looking for a means to meet you, Emma. I even came to the hospital, but the nurses said you can't see anyone, so I waited till you were back in the castle. How are you feeling now?" She hugged me and kept talking nonstop. I felt guilty somehow, wondering how many more people came to see me that couldn't. She withdrew and grabbed my both hands. "I'm so glad you came back, Emma. Thank you so much. My brother was totally lost without you." My heart melted as I felt totally lost for words. She was a really kind person, filled with great energy and life. "Can we go talk in the library?" she asked, and I couldn't say no to her. "I thought you came to see your brother," I said in an attempt to dodge her. "Hell no, I came to see you," she insisted and dragged me excitedly all the way to the library. After catching up and asking me if I would like to start working in the library, which I was really excited about, I went straight to the ground floor to look for my friend. When I arrived at the ground floor, all the workers there glared at me with a coldness I couldn't place my fingers on. I tried to ask if they have seen Carla, but they ignored me, pretending as if they were concentrating on their work. I walked from one bunk to another, checking to see if my friend was there, till I saw her mopping the floor at the end of the ground floor hall. "Carla," I yelled, feeling my heart break at the sight of her cleaning so rigorously. She twirled around, irritated at first, but her green eyes lightened up as she saw me. She dropped her mopping stick and ran into my arms, hugging me with an affectionate fierceness. She was almost sobbing in my arms before I withdrew from the embrace. "I thought I'd never see you. Emma," she puffed. "I came to the hospital but was not allowed to see you." "What the hell is happening here?" a stern voice yelled from behind me. I turned to see a middle-aged female holding a club, walking towards us. "Why did you stop cleaning your portion, idiot?" she glared at Carla menacingly. I stood in between them before she had the chance to come any more closer to my friend. "She is not cleaning anymore. I returned the sternness back to her and then turned to Carla. Go get your things. Let's go back up. You're done here. The rude female regarded me with utter irritation, gaping at me from head to toe like I was nothing before her. And you, the hell are you to butt in? You're Luna Queen, stewardess. A deep, familiar voice spoke from behind. No, ex-stewardess, because you're relieved from your all duties in the castle at this very moment. Guards, take her away. I turned to see my mate standing behind us, his hands shoved deep into his pocket. I thought he'd be brimming hot right now, but he simply winked at me with a grin that made him look completely breathtaking. Carla. Everyone was shocked to see Alphazyke at the ground floor. From all I knew, Emma came alone too, and she was also surprised to see her mate, because she didn't know he would be following her. The stewardess yelling at me a few minutes ago looked like she would shit her pants any moment from now, or would rather be buried under an earthquake than be caught in this situation. The guards standing behind the Alpha dragged her away while she was screaming and begging like the asshole she was. They all never thought the Alpha would take Emma as his Luna, and the dumb stewardess felt Emma looked too small and simple to be a Luna Queen, just because my friend was putting on a jean shorts and hoodie like a college student. Still, though, Emma didn't let the bully of a stewardess intimidate her, and stood up for me in a way that no one had ever done for me in my life. I believe that she would have done fine even without the Alpha coming here. After you, ladies, Alphazyke said to Emma and I had to hold down a chuckle. I have never been called a lady in my life. It was a human term used for respected females or grown-up females, right? Anyway, Emma and I walked back to the 6th floor with the Alpha behind us till we got to the room that used to be ours. I was pretty sure Emma wouldn't have to stay here anymore as the Alpha had finally taken her as his Luna. It was about time, though. I'll be in my office, Luna, the Alpha nodded at us before walking down the hallway to his office while I bowed and Emma smiled before we entered our room. Oh my God, Emma! I shrieked as soon as we closed the door behind us. You finally bagged the hottest bachelor in the werewolf realm. I grabbed her and hugged her so tight, she almost stopped breathing altogether. I believe I'm the one bagged, though, Emma muttered, panting as I let her go and then dragged me to the bed where she made me sit. I'm dying of curiosity, girl. What happened with you and Mint? How did your birthday night go? She asked, looking all keen and interested. Mint is my mate, Emma. What? She yelled wide-eyed, and then a triumphant look appeared on her face. I guess it was your instincts all this while, Carla. Well, some people fall in love with each other and still end up not being mates, though. I mused bitterly, staring at the bed instead of Emma's face. Been mates with Mint was something I had dreamed of all my life, but now that it happened, I don't think it was something worth wishing for. Hey, why the long face, Carla? I thought you'd be over the moon by now. It had been your wish since like forever, remember? Emma came closer to me, a worried look etched on her face. Well, let's face reality, Em. I raised my head to meet her worried blue eyes. He doesn't even know I'm the one. All he believed is that his mate is a blonde-headed beauty named Isabel, who must be from a well-off family because she dresses in expensive clothes and shoes and not in filthy rags like rankless wolves. Oh, Carla. Emma sniffed and hugged me tenderly. She withdrew and took my hands into hers. You can't be so sure, Carl. My Gamma isn't that superficial and materialistic as you think, and I believe he would understand even though not immediately. But you have to come clean to him first. I'm so sorry. She caressed my hand gently, gazing at me with all the love in the world. I was really grateful for her thoughtfulness, but my best friend didn't really understand what was going on and how far I have hurt Mint. I stood him up countless times, promised him and broke my promises, didn't tell him a truth he deserved to know, and kept hiding from him even though I knew he was desperately looking for me. Aside from the fact that I deceived him, I don't think he would ever take me as his mate. Rejection is what I was most afraid of, even though I knew it was inevitable. I just couldn't face him as I am yet. I want to be more than this before that. We'll never know until we try, Carl, Emma said soothingly, bringing my mind back to the present. I know, Em. I smiled weakly at her kind-hearted face. And I don't think I should stay up here since you wouldn't be staying in this room anymore. I told her, and she stared at me in confusion. What are you saying, Carla? I'll always be around now, and my dad is here too. Or where else would you like to stay? I think I would continue working at the ground floor till an opportunity come for me to leave here, I explained, avoiding her gaze. How can you even think of working back there, Carl? You are more than that. Aside from being my friend, you deserve more than that. You hear me? She shook me, as if she wanted her words to sink deeper. I don't plan to work there forever. Besides, I can't stay up here doing nothing and gaining from the pack house resources without contributing anything back. If I do my fair share of work, I'll feel more at ease. I can still make this my room, though, and no one would dare treat me unfairly now. I smiled at her to make her ease up a bit more. She nodded, sat up. What about Mint, then? She asked. What are you going to do about him? You know he'll realize you're the one when he see you, right? And he would be missing you so much now. I'll try my best to avoid him, as I have been doing, don't worry. I got up from the bed and went to our closet. I have to go get some of my clothes back from the ground floor, since I would be changing here. I know the only reason I had been able to stay away from Mint all these while was because my wolf wasn't present, like Mint's wolf. That was why he craved me more than I did him, but that would change if we marked each other. I have the plans of going back to school, since I wasn't able to after the death of my granny. I'll leave before he find out anything. Emma sighed and came to where I stood. She let her hair fall like it was the first time I saw her. She looked really beautiful either way with her pointy oval face. The alpha was really the lucky one. I'm not really cool about keeping Mint in the dark, but I'm all for you going back to school. I'll do my best to make it happen. I was homeschooled by my dad, but I wish to go after having my baby. I stopped what I was doing and looked down at Emma's obvious flat stomach. You're pregnant? I felt all the sad cells in me jumping up for joy as Emma nodded to my question. What the hell, babe? I had no idea. I held her in and hugged her tight. She squirmed, trying to push me away. Emma was really small, like few inches below me, so it felt like I wasn't just hugging her, but suffocating her as well. You can't leave out any single detail. I want to hear everything, I shrieked, dragging her back to the bed, but then remembered I had to go get my things from the ground floor, including my phone. Emma laughed shyly and cleared her throat as if she wanted to start talking. Wait, let me go and get my phone and few clothes down there, okay? Sure, she nodded with a grin. Take your time. I dashed out of the room and used the elevator instead of the stairway I always used because I was scared of being seen inside. No one could really say anything after what the alpha did to our head of stewardess earlier. Still, I don't plan on taking unnecessary advantage of the fact that our Luna Queen is my best friend, though. I would act accordingly till I'm able to leave here. At least no one can bully me now. I pressed the ground floor button and sauntered inside, whistling cheerfully. I was happy. Why wouldn't I be when I saw my friend after forever? And somehow, I felt better after talking to her about all the issues with Mint. The light on the first floor button of the elevator came on. It seemed as though someone was going down as well. Could be one of the high-ranked stewards who worked on the top floor. The elevator stopped moving and the door opened slowly. At first I saw the boots, then the pant trousers, then the white doctor coat, and then his face. A stomach-churning anxiety gripped me as I recognized the person standing outside the elevator. Our eyes met and time suddenly stopped. We locked eyes for ages. At first a look of surprise flickered through his gray eyes, then it morphed into confusion, and then shock, recognition, betrayal, denial, rage, and finally a crushed gaze. One of horror and disgust. A wave of nausea rolled over me, darkening my vision temporarily. Beads of sweat broke out of my brow, my palms wet with perspiration. My lungs were literally empty, but there was no air in the elevator to fill it. I begged the goddess for an earthquake, or maybe a provisional blackout, or anything to help me escape this unacceptable reality. After what seemed like forever, he looked like he had recovered his aplomb. He walked closer to the door of the elevator, close enough to choke my nostrils with his smell. "Continue to stay hidden this way, Isabel," he drawled icily, saying Isabel with undisguised mockery before turning his back on me. His words hit me like a poisonous venom, although I was expecting more. Nothing would ever make me ready for this. I wished he would yell, curse, vent it all out, but he left without saying anything more to me, instead sending me a message of finality with his back to me. Mint. I felt as if I had been hit with a cannonball. I was going to see Zyke to talk about the Green Forest pack issue and suggest he considers making Emma's father the provincial leader of the pack, as I was still hoping to see my mate. I decided to wait for her. I would wait for her, I thought, believing she would come back to me, just like she did the last time. And my convictions were stronger because she is my mate, and I was going to understand whatever excuse or reason she came up with for standing me up those days, disappearing without an explanation and avoiding me. But I finally saw her in a way we both didn't want to. When the elevator opened at the 4th floor, and I saw her, I was surprised at first to see a rankless wolf using the elevator. Then I remembered she was Emma's personal maid. It was natural, right? But I caught the familiar smell of cinnamon and red rose, and then Hades started howling, running about in my head at the sight of her. But she doesn't have a blonde hair like Isabel. She didn't dress like her, as I've never had the opportunity to see my mate in casual clothes before. This person doesn't even have the air of confidence that Isabel had. So why? That was when it hit me like a moving train. I peered closer for some seconds to make sure I wasn't mistaken. However, everything came rushing back to me. First, the party where she first approached me. Things were so unstable with Emma after what happened at the ball that she couldn't meet me for some time. She deliberately charmed me and made me look for her desperately, even when I didn't know she was my mate. And that day at the beach, when I was so depressed, I told her about Isabel. I fucking told her about herself. I emptied my heart to her that day without even understanding why I did it, and I was dead sure she must have jeered and sneered and laughed at my pathetic self for falling in love with someone I didn't even know. And then she decided to show up again, probably because I looked so pitiful that day. She knew everything about me. That was why finding the hospital wasn't a big deal for her. And when she realized we were mates, she decided not to show up anymore. Her actions that day wasn't because she was shy or surprised. It was because she didn't want it to be that way. She made me wait and wait, like a fucking idiot. Next was at the hospital. My mind wasn't playing tricks on me. I wasn't crazy or delusional, as I had been thinking. She was really there, and she knew I was looking for her, but she hid herself away from me. I was worried for nothing, having sleepless nights with anxiety and depression for nothing. I could hear the sound of my heart shattering. A lump formed in my throat that made it difficult for me to swallow. Her green eyes were the only thing that didn't change, and they still had the magnetism of the nights before. They brought me so much joy a few days ago, but now they simply made my heart ache like hell. She simply stood there staring at me with astonishment plastered on her face. Why didn't I recognize her? Why was I so blinded by what was being shown to me without looking deeper? I should have always wondered why a female from a well-off family had such a tanned skin. Was that detail even important? She was a freaking rankless she-wolf. Even though I cared about accepting her as my mate, my whole family will freak out big time. I breathe in and out repeatedly, trying to regain my composure. One thing was sure, though, I don't ever want to see her ever again, and that was final. I took few steps towards her, wanting like crazy to hold her, but instead pushed her further away from me by telling her with the iciest voice I could muster to continue hiding. After all, it was what she was most good at. I called her by the fake name she gave me, wondering how stupid she must have thought I was for believing her dumb lies before going to take the stairs and heading for the Alpha's office. I felt shaken. So shaken, I don't think I would ever be able to trust anyone anymore. I will be the provincial leader of Green Forest Pack, I announced after greeting the Alpha with a nodding bow. What? He looked taken aback, getting up from his chair behind a wide mahogany desk. He looked like he was totally engrossed in whatever he was doing in his laptop when I came inside the office. I'm taking the position you offered, Alpha, if it still stands, I repeated, standing erect before with my head slightly bowed. Why the sudden change of mind, Mint? He asked, gazing intently at me. What about your mate? Have you finally found her? No, wait, is she from the Green Forest Pack? I just want to leave here. Is that good enough? My voice was faltering. I could hardly keep it together now. Hey, Mint, Zyke trailed, talking out from his desk to where I stood. I would love it if you'll take this problem off my shoulders, but I also need you to put yourself first. If it isn't something you want, you don't have to push yourself. Love has really changed my alpha, though. It wasn't like he had always been a mean person. It's just that he has never been this nice before. He was nice, but never liked to show it. Better put. When someone else spoke this way in his presence, it made him cringe. But look at him talking like a therapist. I'll be fine, don't worry. I forced a smile at him, even though I know he could see through it. If you say so, then, but I'll try not to disclose it to anyone yet. You, I, Kurt, my Luna, and the elders of Green Forest Pack will have a meeting tomorrow so we can finalize the process. You can make one of your brothers your assistant. I don't think you will be comfortable with Argo's beta. He surmised thoughtfully. I nodded and grinned at him. He was good at planning, but Kurt was better. Still, Zyke knew how to get the job done. They were indeed my best friends. Care for a drink? I asked with a scowl. I could really use a friend right now. I'll call Kurt on our way. I thought as much, but I can't stay out late anymore. He chuckled and winked. Of course I understood. We can't let our Luna be alone without her mate. Carla. I gathered my things like a walking corpse, totally unbothered with the side comments and sniggers from my fellow stewardess. I had enough on my mind already as it is, and I simply don't give a fuck about what they thought of me. Not anymore. I had grown a thick skin since high school. I was having a strong urge to throw up. My stomach refused to calm down after my encounter with Mint a few minutes ago. Did her reject me? Did I see want in his eyes, or my desperate mind just make that up? He abhors me now for sure, but do I still have a chance? Hey, Carla, I heard you're like the Gamma's assistant now. What, Luna's best friend? Some familiar faces cut into my deep thoughts before bursting into loud fits of laughter. They were mocking me, trying to deliberately get under my skin, but ignored them, deciding not to give them the benefit of doubt. Gather around, everyone. Important announcement. The assistant head of stewards, Mayan, called loudly, standing in front of our bunk. She turned to stare at me questioningly. Are you still part of us, Carla? Or you came to get your things? She asked, showing no trace of emotion, whether she was angry or happy. I'm still working here, ma'am. I replied, feeling suddenly self-conscious. All right then, listen up. She turned back to face everyone. The Alpha wants to send some stewardess to Green Forest Pack to start working there. Also, you can attend school while working there or learn a skill. It's purely optional. No one is forcing you. He only needs volunteers. I stood there in the crowd of fellow rankless wolves, feeling a rush of gratitude flood over me. This was exactly the opportunity I have been searching for, and it has finally landed on my tiny laps. I better grab it. What are we going to do there? Hush, a female in charge of the 5th floor asked Mayan, with her hands raised like she was in a class, asking the lecturer a question from the lecture. You are going to do the same thing you're doing here, but the Alpha will make the conditions more favorable since it's a lesser pack, I think, she explained patiently. Who wants to go? She asked, looking around with hope in her eyes. Who would want to go? Lacey, the rudest girl on the ground floor that likes to tease me, muttered loud enough for the stewardess to hear. I mean, what good will having a skill and education do for a rankless wolf? It's not like it'll be useful to us at the end of the day, though. She shrugged, and most people started nodding in agreement. For me, no knowledge is wasted. I'll go, ma'am. I spoke up, not minding that my words could be used against me. Everyone stared at me as if I had completely lost my mind. No one will be there to protect you, loser. She mused and started sniggering with her minions. That's enough, Lacey. Mayan snapped at her irritably. If anyone will join Carla, you have till 3 days' time to do that, she concluded and left. I had already packed my stuffs, so I stood up and left as well, before they pounced on me with harsh words. I imagined them hearing that I was mated to the Gamma. Most of them will pass out, literally. I cried all the way upstairs, burning with the desire for the day we could leave for Green Forest Pack to get here already. I would be running away like coward, but that was the best I could do for now. run as fast as my legs could carry me. Sharing the same space with Mint will only cause me more pain and heartache. Emma. Dinner was served. Tension was in the air. A tension that only I could feel. I wanted everyone to be present, as it felt like it would be the first family dinner I would be having since I started living in the pack house. The general dining table was filled with different kinds of delicacies, even the kind of food I have never tried before because my father wasn't much of a good cook. He simply did as far as his skills could go, and I couldn't learn much from him either, so we just ate to survive. As the saying goes, if the preferable is not available, then the available becomes preferable. However, the royal chefs did a fine job, and before 6:30 p.m., they came to inform me that dinner was ready, and I went ahead to start calling everyone I wanted to be a part of the dinner. The people that were not just like family, but were already family. To me, these are the people I would fight for with my very last breath. Zick, my mate, sat on the chair at the extreme end of the table, looking relaxed and happy after the quickie we had before coming down to join the others. I was nestled on the seat next to my mate, making sure everything on the table was well served. Trisha sat next to me, rubbing her hands together and peering at the dishes enthusiastically. She had gathered her full chestnut brown hair to a bun before coming into the castle's dining hall. Kurt, my cousin, sat right next to Trisha. He looked somber, but was trying his best to manage an open face through the dinner, all the while secretly stuffing food into the empty plate in front of Trisha, but she acted like he wasn't even there. Next was Mint, longed face, trying to avoid everyone's gaze. I could guess he had been crying. Seems he had finally caught on about Carla being his mate. He picked his food sluggishly with zero enthusiasm, like he was feeling so down he couldn't hide it anymore. I felt bad for him, and somehow I feel like an accomplice to his dilemma right now, but I wish he will look past all that and see that her intentions were never wrong or meant to hurt him. Not all lies are bad, my favorite writer always say. At the opposite side of the table was Carla, siting directly adjacent Mint. She was doing a fine job of hiding how tensed and anxious she was, but I could see, though, all of it. After all, she's my best friend. I told Carla because I really wanted her to be part of it, but I also had to tell her that Mint would be coming too, so as not to make it an uncomfortable ordeal for her. However, she was surprisingly cheerful, saying she wanted to see my dad and be acquainted to the others, acting like she didn't tell me how she was trying to avoid Mint. But she and Mint made it hard for me to breathe, and it seemed like I was the only one aware. One was laughing at every single joke being told, while the other was acting like he wasn't here at all. Carla smiled widely at everything. When my dad said he loved the single dimple on her left cheek, she blushed and thanked him effusively. She deserved the compliment. Besides, she deliberately dressed so well to the dinner, as Carla, of course, and she did a great job. But I hope she wouldn't try too hard to impress Mint. Mint's two brothers, Alec and Zeus, who came with him, sat next Carla. The three brothers looked a lot alike, but Alec had a red hair with an extraordinarily charming smile, while Zeus had an air of untamed roguishness about him with his unruly light brown hair and stoic demeanor. Zeus was the eldest, while Mint was the middle child and Alec the youngest. He should be about a year older than me and Carla. My father sat close to my mate on the other end. He looked exceptionally healthier and well-rested. I dare say happy, and that was enough for me. I might not be able to make everyone happy at the same time, but I would try my very best. As we all dug into our plates about to start eating, Zyke began to hit his fork on the glass plate in front of him in an attempt to all the attention of everyone on the table. Everyone raised their heads, including me, as I was curious about what he was about to say or announce. He cleared his throat loudly. I just want to let everyone here know about a piece of great news I shouldn't be keeping only to myself. He smiled and turned to face me. I was getting familiar with this smile, but it still made her heart skip 2 beats faster. "What's that?" Trisha asked, dropping her fork by the side of her plate. "My mate, my Luna, Emma and I are currently expecting our first child." His large hands sought mine and wrapped it firmly. "What? Get out!" Trisha shrieked joyfully, getting up and hugging me first before going to hug her brother. "Hey, man," Kurt and Mint chorused, smiling from ear to ear. It was the first time I was seeing Mint smile since we gathered here. Zeke was blushing, drawing out sniggers from me. It felt like I was seeing other parts of him, other things that made him up. He was more than the ruthless they called him, or the cocky or obnoxious. Everyone said their congratulations in turn, and Tricia suggested a toast, which we all joined by filling our glasses with wine, but my mate wouldn't allow me drink and instead gave me his glass of water. I scoffed, chuckled, but cheered anyway, and we all started eating silently. The tension in the air seemed to have dissipated a bit. Alex suddenly stopped eating and took a sip from his glass of water. I wonder when Mint is going to show his mate to us, though. He said he had found her, but somehow it's like he was pulling our legs, he commented. Chuckling quietly. My heart almost stopped. I wish I had the power to take back words. Urgh! Everyone laughed at his words, but Mint froze, halting from chewing the food in his mouth, and Carla started to cough so loud and hard as though she got choked on the food. Before anyone could make any move, Mint swiftly handed her his own glass of water as if on impulse, but Carla stared at him, transfixed and immobilized. Oh no, no, no! Carla! All I wanted to do at the dinner was fake my smiles, force the food down my throat, and leave even though my heart was in the stomach all that time. I zoned out, made myself not listen to whatever was being said at the table. I simply stared at the mouth-watering delicacies, the beautiful matching set of china plates, and even the people who sat here. It was the first time I would be eating on the same table with wolves of such ranks. Not to talk of the highest-ranking wolves in the whole realm. I don't think I deserved to sit among them like this. I laughed at first when Emma told me to join them, thinking it was only people who lived in the castle, but when she told me that Mint would be attending as well, I was like, fuck it, he knows already. So what's the point of hiding behind like the coward he already thinks I was? But what I didn't know was why I had to sit exactly opposite him like I was right now. I mean, it took a lot of effort not to stare at him from my point of view. He didn't seem mad like he did at the elevator. He looked forlorn, sad, and heartbroken. I wanted to explain everything to him, tell him how sorry I was, tell him how scared I was of getting rejected by him, but I'm not sure I could ever have the opportunity to do that anymore. Anyway, when I leave, I won't have to see how much I broke someone's heart. I would feel indebted for a long time, but that would fuel my motivation the more. Maybe if I was even one bit better than I was now, maybe then I would stand a chance. So I thought I had successfully escaped the drama until someone from the table spoke up about Mint's mate after Emma and the Alpha announced that they were expecting their first child. It must be one of Mint's brothers, and he said it so directly as though he had the intention of making an impact with his words. And it may not have worked on his brother, as he intended, but it did work on me. I choked on the food I was about to swallow and started coughing. Before I knew what was happening, Mint got up abruptly, shoving his own glass of water into my face, but I was too dazed to take it from him immediately. And the next thing I knew, someone else was behind me, hitting my back gently, till the coughing reduced. Mint sat down reluctantly, dropping his glass of water in front of me and looking away. I couldn't tell if he was angry or embarrassed. What I didn't understand was why he even bothered to try to help me with such promptness. He got up before anyone else, like I meant something to him. Was I overthinking it? I wondered, staring down at my plate as the strange hand continued to pat my back. "Take some water now," the voice of the person patting me said, and I turned to see that it was Mint's younger brother, Alec, the one who caused the potential disaster in the first place. I downed all the water in Mint's glass, mouthing thank you to his brother, who was kind enough to come to my rescue like that. He nodded with a really beautiful smile before going back to his seat. And then I decided I had had enough for a whole day. I thanked everyone for the meal, got up and excused myself from the dining hall. As I stepped out, Emma stopped me. "Hey, Carl," she whispered, holding me back. "Are you okay?" "I'll be, Em. Sorry if I caused any trouble back there, and thank you for inviting me. The meals were really delicious," I said to her with a forced smile. "Come here, woman," she mumbled and held me into a comforting embrace. "Go up and rest, okay? I'll see you tomorrow. We need to talk. I nodded and went the other way, while she went back into the dining hall. I walked all the way back to my room, letting the tears fall on their own, sobbing uncontrollably at things that would have been but could never be anymore. I can't wait to leave this pack house so I could stop seeing him. Mint. I didn't want to care. I wish I could have held myself back, but I couldn't stop myself. She and I were over, and at this point I would rather mark someone else as my mate than ever accept her. I resented her for deceiving me all those while, resented her for being a rankless she-wolf, hated the fact that someone born from such a low rank had to turn out to be my mate. But why did I care so much as to get up so abruptly to hand her water? I was still feeling the impact of Alec's words about me not showing my mate like I said I would, to think that the so-called mate was right in front of me, but I couldn't dare to tell anyone she was my mate. I loathed my brother for doing that to me, for exposing me in front of her, and making her realize how much I was so happy and over the moon when I found her, when she came to me. I also couldn't stop myself from feeling jealous when Alec got up and started patting her back like that. She left afterward, looking totally shaken. I picked my food absent-mindedly till the diner ended and we all retired to the castle's spacious sitting room. I strolled to the small bar placed at the corner of the sitting room. I wanted more alcohol, but Kurt and Zyke stopped me, dragging out of the place to the balcony outside. The air was clean, the weather nice, but it didn't so much to help my mood. The pack was filled with lights, the streets glowing like it was daytime. I loved my pack so much, but it felt as though I was running away from it, and I didn't have much of a choice. "You have to talk to us, Mint, instead of going around acting like a zombie," Kurt stated, with a stern voice cutting into my dreamy introspection. "Haven't you been able to reach out to your mate yet?" Zyke asked. They were both peering worriedly at me. "I'll see you guys at the meeting with the elders of the Green Forest Pack tomorrow," I said tersely and walked out on the both of them. I have lots of booze back at home, I thought. I'll just drown myself in them till tomorrow. I didn't know what else could quench the fire burning inside my chest. I shouldn't be thinking about her or be worried for her. I was the one who got hurt, right? Alpha Zyke. Before 12 noon, all the elders of the Green Forest Pack and the other alphas assembled at the throne room in the first floor. Emma sat by my right side on the seat meant for the Luna Queen. Kurt and Mint sat on their designated positions, while the alphas and elders took their seats in front of me. They didn't look too happy, and I knew it was because someone would be taking the place of their partner in crime, or better put, leader. I introduced Emma as my Luna Queen to everyone present and made them understand that I'll be introducing her to the whole realm on the coronation day, which will be in few days' time. Emma will be crowned the Luna Queen of the werewolf realm, while Mint will be ordained the new provisional leader of the Green Forest Pack. I also informed the council that Mint will choose one of his brothers to assist him with the pack's affairs, and I would be sending some stewards from the castle along to make their stay more comfortable. The stewards and stewardesses from the castle will attend only to the needs of Mint and his family, while the Green Forest Pack stewards can take care of the other things in the pack house. They all nodded in agreement as I signed the letter of consent handed to me by one of the elders. They all stood up and came to shake and bow to Kurt as our customs demanded before going back to their seats. I was about to put an end to the meeting when one of the oldest among the elders, Kent, raised his hands to say something. I nodded for him to go on, and he stood up and courtesy first to me and then to the other alphas before proceeding. "Your Grace, thank you for listening to our request for a kind and deserving alpha." He started and then tried to stand more erect despite his age. "Our pack is currently in chaos, as much as the need for a new leader was one of the reason, the other, which is about the Luna, is one we haven't found a solution to yet," he concluded and took his seat. I was confused. I didn't really understand what he was talking about. "Elder Kent, can you be a bit clearer?" "You don't have to stand," I told him. "Yes, Alpha. About majority of the pack says they do not want a half-blood, one with the enemy's blood as their Luna Queen." He explained from his seat, and I felt Emma tense up from beside me. I stretched my hands and took her tiny palm, squeezing it gently and reassuringly till she calmed down a bit more. "Same here, Alpha," the Alpha of Forest Pack chipped in with his hand raised. "It is a serious issue I'm dealing with for a while now." "Me too?" another said, and they kept going on and on, everyone claiming that they were having troubles in their pack. Even one claimed that he woke up to a loud protest in front of his pack house a few days ago. Emma's palms were sweaty. Kurt shifted uncomfortably on his seat, and Mint looked like he was about to scream at them to shut the hell up. "Enough," I declared, and they all went silent at once. I got up from my throne and walked menacingly to where they all sat, with their eyes darting here and there. I could feel steam coming out from every part of me. I wanted to hit something so bad. "I am the Alpha King of this whole realm, including each and every one of your individual packs, and I have never used my authority to stop any one of you from claiming your mates, no matter who they are, so why do you all think you have the right to tell me who to be with and who not to be with?" I peered at the traitorous alphas who had connived with Argo. I could smell their nervousness. They wouldn't have spoken up if Elder Kent didn't, the cowards. I banged the table they were sitting around in a loud and sudden manner, causing them to jolt up in tremor. That's the kind of fear I want to instill in them. "Go tell your pack members what you think is the right thing." I drawled icily. "There are under your leadership. I don't think handling them should be an issue. Meanwhile, they're all invited to the coronation ceremony." I signaled Kurt, who went to open the door of the throne room and ushered in Emma's father. There were loud gasps among the elders and alphas sitting around as soon as they recognized him. They must have thought he was dead, or might not have even given a second thought about him. As these alphas were the same set of people who pressured my short-sighted father into banishing Emma's father. I was too dumb to realize that we were all wrong back then. "This is Elgin Price," I stated. "And no, your eyes are not playing tricks on you. He was my father's beta before he found that his mate was a vampire, and since he refused to reject her, he was banished unjustly from the realm that was supposed to protect him." Emma's father was given a seat among the elders who were gaping at him with their mouths wide open in shock. They couldn't even mask their bewilderment. It was real fun to watch. "As the present Alpha King," I continued with authority in my voice, "I have lifted his banishment and making him a part of this council from this moment," I declared, and they all bowed in acceptance. After all, they had no choice to do otherwise. "One more thing," I spoke up before bringing the meeting to an end. "My mate is not a half-blood, neither is she a half-breed or hybrid or whatever shit you all have in mind. She is Emma, the Luna Queen, and would be called nothing else besides that. Do well to inform your pack members. Is that taken?" I asked, and they all nodded again, chorusing, "Yes, Alpha." I turned and went back to the throne, took Mate into my arms, and we both strode out from the throne room hand in hand. We had somewhere more important to be right now. I have been planning it for her for a while now, and these two timers are not about to ruin things for me. "Emma," I exhaled deeply as my mate and I finally got outside and away from that suffocating atmosphere. I wanted so bad to run away when those alphas started chorusing how much their pack members were against me being their Luna Queen and all, but I was done running away. Besides, my mate handled it better than I expected. It melted my heart so much, I almost teared up right there, especially when he openly introduced my father to the council and lifting his banishment in front of them. I knew it wasn't an easy thing for him to do, and how much it would cause a serious hate from his subjects. I stared up at him as we walked towards the beach with our hands linked into each other's. He looked so handsome, with his hair dancing in the wind and a smile etched on his face. "Are you okay?" I asked, and he chuckled and gazed down at me, then raised my hand that was linked in his. "I'm okay now," he grinned. "Meanwhile, I have something to show you." "What?" I asked with a laugh. "You'll see it soon," he sniggered playfully and then tied my eyes with a red cloth. He led me by hand for a while, and then a few moments later he dropped my hand and walked forward, leaving me totally blind and unaware, although I could smell him really well. Were we about to make a scene? I thought he said we won't be doing that anymore till after giving birth, so What was the cloth for? What are you doing? I asked, cackling. No reply. And the next thing I knew was my blindfold being taken off, and right before me was one of the most magnificent sights ever. There were 2 lines of flowers leading up to a little canopy. Under the canopy is a dining table set up for 2. I couldn't stop myself from gasping out loud with my eyes as wide as saucers. "What's this?" I asked. But he gestured for me to move ahead, and I cleared my throat and walked the pathway between the flowers. The soft wind from the ocean blew against my hair, and the sand beneath my feet made it feel like I was walking a pathway to heaven. Soon I reached the canopy. The table there was round, and the 2 chairs faced each other. On the table was a bottle of wine. A burning candle was flame-flickered and managed to stay burning in the breeze. 2 tall glass cups, 2 plates with their accompanying cutleries. What is Zyke up to? I wondered in my head, but before I could ask again, he went down on one knee, opening his palms to expose a jaw-dropping sight of a burning sapphire ring in his hand. He held it up, and it glistered in the saw, giving it a more magical effect. I didn't know how to describe what I was feeling right now, and couldn't stop a tear from streaming down my face. My mate, the mate I thought I had lost forever, smiled up at me with his perfect and sculptured face. He looked like all the good things in the world. He looked like he was going to be all of it to me. He took my left hand from my side, caressing it affectionately. "Marry me, Emma Price." He spoke so softly, you wouldn't believe he was the one yelling at the alphas few minutes ago, with a thunderous voice. "Be my Luna, be my queen, and let me be your comfort, your consolation, your indispensable safe haven, your mate in shining armor. I don't know what my life would be if you didn't give me a second chance. Let me atone every day of my life and be your peace of mind." His beautiful violet eyes were misty, like he could start crying at any moment. I sobbed out, unable to hold back the tears anymore, allowing them to run down my cheeks and fall on the warm sand. My heart tugged in my chest as a warm sensation permeated through my insides. I don't think I have ever experienced anything this calming and mind-blowing at the same time. Yes, I will. I wept, and I could feel Ashley jumping for joy as my mate slipped the ring into my finger. Zyke got up and enfolded me into a heart-melting embrace. "I know we would have lots of obstacles in our way, but it's all good because we're together now. You're mine now, and no one would dare take you away from me," he muttered into my ear. He stepped back and kissed me tenderly on my forehead. "Will you eat lunch with me, Miss Emma Hyde?" he drawled, gesturing towards the sophisticated table before us. "It's Emma Price," I retorted with a high laugh. "Why? Didn't I get it right this time?" he whined like a little kid, ushering me to my seat. "It's not that?" "Then what?" "I'm a feminist," I whispered conspiratorially. He laughed out loud, throwing his head back with complete abandon. I don't think I have ever seen him in such a mood before. He looked really happy, and that made me happy as well. I felt complete. My dad was here, the love of my life was here, and my friends and loved ones were here too. What more could I ever wish for?